Ahead of this Subway Series, by the way, a lot different than we envisioned it when the schedules came out, BT, but the New York Mets cannot and should not sell. It's been going on for weeks, the debate, we've had it, whether it's been you with Tiki, me by myself, with the callers, whatever, you and I together yesterday. The Mets cannot sell, and I'm going to give you 3 reasons why.
Okay.
Number 1, I do not trust Billy Epler. No way, no how do I trust Billy Epler to sell. And when I mean sell, BT, there are different levels to it. You talk about the fire sale, breaking the thing down. So that's number 1. I don't trust Billy Epler for a wholesale fire sale, maximizing the return. Number 2.
By the way, I wouldn't trust Billy Epler to line the base paths with the chalk at this point, but keep going.
Ooh, that's not nice, but I like it, BT. Talk dirty to me. Let's go. Number 2, I don't think the return is going to be worth it. So when you talk about, and you know, the popular names that are, David Robertson and Tommy Pham, what do these guys get nowadays? This is not 2016 where Brian Cashman got he gave up Aroldis Chapman to get then top prospect in baseball, Gleyber Torres. You're not getting that for David Robertson. That's number 2. And number 3, and maybe this is the most important. Now, I don't know how the Mets are so indecisive with this, but they're indecisive. And if you're not sure about what you want to do, don't do it. Do not go out there and sell just because other people say you should, just because other people think it might be the right thing, just because things haven't gone their right way. I think it'd be a big mistake at this point, BT, for the Mets to sell.
All right, first of all, listen, if I'm a Mets fan, I'm absolutely terrified right now to your third point. I don't think that they know what they want to do, which is mind-bending. It's terrifying. I'll tell you what, though. Not only would I sell, all right, now this is going to be hard for Met fans to swallow. All right, you probably push back and we'll see. Not only would I sell if I'm running the Mets, forget about the ancillary pieces like Robertson. It's going to sound crazy. Nimmo, Lindor. I'm taking calls on everybody. See, I think the Yankees core is broken. We spent a lot of time on the Yankees yesterday, obviously. I think the Mets core is busted. I think the Mets core is broken. I don't think the Mets core has a bridge to anything that Met fans are dying for, which is a championship.
Do you think that dates back to last year getting swept by the Braves and losing that division?
Listen, I think there's a lot of evidence here. Think about this. If you have a radio show for roughly a year and, it's going in the wrong direction. Now, there can be circumstances, whatever, but generally it's probably a sign that the show's not the right show. And when you have a baseball team, like the Yankees as well, because they played 500 ball the final 100 games last year and looked very bad offensively against both the Guardians and, of course, the Astros, where they got broomed again. The New York Mets, the Braves series, the Padres in the playoffs, the 4 months of evidence this year. I think that you can have a conversation and you can appreciate, as a non-Mets fan, I can appreciate the Mets winning 101 games a year ago. I truly can. They played crisp ball. They ran the bases well. They're backing up. I mean, little fundamental things. Yeah. The Mets were dialed in from day one. But what I never really thought the Mets were a power. Like, I never bought it. All summer last year, I was screaming, you need a heavy bat. You need a potent bat. There's a lot of sac flies, a lot of infield hits, a lot of hit and runs, things that win games, but ththings that don't necessarily win championships if you don't replicate that. Sal, I look at this team and I'm like, who's going to be in the middle of a World Series celebration in 2 years or 3 years besides probably Pete Alonso?
These are things that we look at now. That's why it's a different argument, or there are different conversations to be had about next year, how this team will look next year, and then what is exactly selling this year. But for me, look, realistically, we've watched this team, and we know we've made our decision on this team. I knew when Edwin Diaz went down in the freaking worthless baseball classic, I knew deep down that this season was over. When they got swept by Atlanta in early June, I knew this season was over. And obviously we try to hold out hope because you want the season to be alive, and they've given you reason, at times maybe to have some hope based on what they did last year and a little bit this year. The reality is mathematics are not that good, but they're still technically in things, and they don't want to sell. I mean, that's quite obvious because how can you make a decision based on what you've seen for 3 months and say, you know what, we're going to wait to see what they do against the Yankees or the Nationals? Like
2 games, 3 games.
That doesn't add up. But the idea that they should sell with, and even now you're taking it a step further with breaking up the core.
Yes.
I don't want Billy Epler to do that. I don't trust him. If I don't trust him to get good value back for Tommy Pham or David Robertson, which, by the way, if you're going to trade those guys, that's a clear sign in selling, right? If David Robertson goes, that's number one. We are selling because you're losing you're becoming worse this year. Mm-hmm. I don't trust Epler to maximize the return on him. Why would I trust him to maximize the return on Alonso or Brandon Nimmo?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I'm not saying that you should. I just, I look at this team and I can't envision winning 9 of 11 or 12 out of 15 as they start to play some better teams. I don't see it.
What good BT is selling going to do the Mets at this point?
Well, look at it this way. Well, first of all, there's a couple of ways to sell. And I think we need to make the distinction. You can sell without waving the white flag. Like, if you sell, again, some of these ancillary pieces, Tommy Pham, who was very good before he hurt his groin. Mm-hmm. He was on a red-hot tear, as we all know.
Like, what the hell are they getting back
you're not getting much. Right. But what you are getting is you're creating some roster space for these young kids to play. So, can you attack, 50-something games, however many games there are left? Can you attack the final few months of the season with if you don't want to get rid of or at least investigate on the most cursory level trading not Alonso, a Nimmo or even a Lindor if somebody would take on the contract. Can you envision a team with their best players now and you run the veterans and you just run out Beatty and Maurice every single day? Like, to me, that's at least you're still fighting. Like, you still have a chance. You're not giving up. You're not, just, all right, rip down the metal bars and the store's closed and put the locks on it. You at least have a puncher's chance. But if you run out there, and I know Cata's a good pro, and he's backed up third base. Yay! Backed up,
3 assists. Yeah, right.
Backed up third base. Fantastic. Great. The Tom Amansky videos. Remember the VHS tapes back in the day?
Sure. Freddie McGriff,
your boy Crime Dog was in that. Yeah. Fantastic. If he plays 6 or 7 straight games, is he going to do anything real? And the answer for me is no, because he's never had more than 70 RBIs in his life. Just run all the kids out there. Stop half-assing it. Stop half-stepping it. And make the commitment. So I'm cool with selling.
Mauricio's the one you're talking about. And I'm sick and
tired.
Every day.
But every day, Sal.
Oh, my God. Yeah, but I'm sick and tired of hearing about Mauricio. How's Beatty looked? You know what he looks like to me? Beatty looks like a guy who can't play third base in the big league level.
He's looked a little sloppy the last week.
Which, by the way, BT, Billy Epler said, when everybody's like, oh, where's Beatty? Where's Alvarez? He said, I'm not bringing these guys up here until their game is airtight. Now, they kind of forced the hand. Escobar wasn't any good. Beatty was raking in the minor leagues. Narvaez gets hurt. So the Mets had to go to these rookies before they wanted to, and you've seen some holes in their game, specifically Beatty. What do you think Mauricio's going to be? He's not going to be the answer. So if you do decide to make that call and sell off whatever, Pham and Robertson, now it's going to be clearly you're watching these young players learn at the big league level. I'm tired of that. I'm done with that. They have the highest payroll of Major League Baseball. At this point, it is not worth it to me as a fan to sell off pieces for minimal return to just give up on the year. I'd rather bang my head against the wall and watch this team, even though I know they're not going to the playoffs. I'd rather see them attempt to go to the playoffs.
Well, and by the way, we both might be missing the mark a little bit here. We consider, and conceptually, I certainly get what you're saying, and I think that you understand where I'm coming from. But the bottom line is, if the Mets want to do something, I don't know, Pete Alonso, how about you stop hitting 210? Jeff McNeil, how about you stop hitting 256? Lindor, how about you stop hitting 225? We could talk about Robertson. We could talk about Tommy Pham. We could talk about Morcana. We could talk about the kids until we're blue in the face. Name a team that has a chance to win something this year whose best players aren't popping. Yeah. Look at Austin Riley. Look at Acuna. Look at I know the Rays have gone a little south lately, but look at their core players. Look at Baltimore's young players who are absolutely crushing it. Look at what Freddie Freeman's doing for the Dodgers, who, by the way, has similar numbers across the board to Acuna. You think Acuna's having a good season. Freddie Freeman's got more total bases. Every star. And I feel like, Sal, we always come back to this with the Mets and really with the Yankees too, with Stanton and these other guys. The New York baseball stars are not getting the job done.
And that is why, BT, I'm not selling, because I do believe at some point these guys will start to get it going and at least play respectable baseball the rest of the way. 877-337-6666. Linda is in Long Beach. Linda? Hi, Linda. Okay, Linda is not there. Ben is calling from Staten Island. Ben? Hi, Ben.
Hey, Sal.
Ben,
how are you,
if
sir?
you don't answer us, I'm hanging up. I'm not taking the phone calls. Get to the phone calls. They're not there to start the show. How dare you? Let's go.
What the hell's going on here? Come on. Hoff, is this your phone,
I'm
Hoff?
going to talk to you guys.
There we go.
Listen, in regards to the trade deadline, I agree with you 100%. You gotta play the kids here. You gotta see what you have. I mean, Tommy Pham and David Robertson, I think their trade value is probably the best on this team because they're on smaller contracts and they would provide some kind of, positive reinforcement to a contender. I don't think you're going to get anybody to bite on Verlander or Scherzer. I just think their contracts are too much at this point, and nobody's going to want a 40-year-old bum on their team for the playoffs. So I think you got to play the kids. You got to see what you have. Beatty, I think, is more of a corner outfielder at this point. So maybe see if you can get some kind of young third baseman prospect in return. But I think if you're the Mets, you absolutely have to sell. Focus on next year. Focus on getting Shohei. Maybe win some games tonight. It's always nice to beat up on the Yankees, but yeah, going forward, this team's got
always nice to beat up on the Yankees, except it never happens.
And by the way, we were talking before the show, I don't think either team is good enough to win 2 games. I think we're going to get the same exact in a row against each other, where somebody's going to drop a pop-up like Nimmo did the last time, where somebody's going to blow a lead like the Yankees did. Listen, I look at these Mets, and I think the easiest, but it's also sometimes the hardest because you overthink it. The easiest thing to do in life is to really embrace who somebody is or what somebody is when they show you. And it's hard because sentiment gets in the way, and hope and optimism, they kind of conflict the sensibility, and they challenge what should be a fairly even equation. And Sal, I love your passion. I've always enjoyed it. You're a nutball.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you love your team. But if you strip that away and you get some, nerdy lawyer who just does fantasy baseball and doesn't really have a connection to any team, and you say, all right, sir, pragmatically evaluate the Mets. You know what they'd say? They'd say they stink.
Right, but is there a way out of it? And look,
I don't think so.
Well, that's kind of my point. So they're already in too deep. There's no way you can justify selling with this team right now, what the return would be, and with who's running things. I don't trust Billy Epler. I don't want to see the Mets sell this thing off. I know realistically they're dead in the water. I don't believe – I would have one goal at the deadline. If I'm Steve Cohen, to Billy Epler, you make this team better. Not just this team now. You make this team better now and in the future.
I don't know. How do you do now and future?
Figure it out. Well, I have an answer.
Okay.
For me, it's trade Max Scherzer because I think then you're getting back. Now, I don't know what the return is going to be for Max Scherzer, but if you trade Max Scherzer and send some of the money away, you can get some of the prospects you desire. Maybe you could use that money that you just alleviated yourself from with Scherzer to bring in some bullpen arms, and now you're better now and next year. That's not selling to me. That's improving the ball club. That is what I'm doing if I'm Steve Cohen. What good is selling going to do? What kind of message does that send your fan base?
Let me ask you this. Does messaging there's certain teams where messaging really matters. So I get it. Right now, even though we're all disenchanted with the Yankees, the messaging of the Yankees matters less than the messaging historically of the New York Jets, of the New York Mets, and of the New York Knicks, because we're tortured, and generally they give us nothing for the efforts and for what we give them as fans, right? Monetarily and both emotion. Messaging, I guess I'm just not that wrapped up in the non-tangible messaging.
Agreed.
I think that you could get better. Who gives a damn about the message?
Well, how
the
are they
message
getting
has
better
been
then?
sent. The team's not good.
Oh, agreed. Tell me how they get better then.
Well, I think you maybe get better by running these kids out. The kid hit a 446-foot home run the other day in Syracuse. Let him play.
In Syracuse, Beatty you couldn't get the guy out in Syracuse. He comes up to the Mets and there's no impact.
I know, but you know what? At least just start the process of evaluation. I want to see. Listen, if I'm a Mets fan, I don't even as a baseball fan.
You think trading Jeff McNeil will be selling?
Listen, at this point, he's not helping you.
Exactly. So you could trade Jeff McNeil, bring up Mauricio,
put him at second,
bring
or
something
left.
back from McNeil. You're not selling.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, but that's not selling.
But it's a pivot to me that is rewarding. You know what I mean? So
but
maybe
that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want rewarding, BT. I want rewarding.
You've been waiting long enough, buddy.
Dude, I'm tired of it.
It's ridiculous.
Think about it. If we were to have this conversation in February or March, and we're talking about the Mets being sellers.
Dude.
I wouldn't be able to take it.
Think about the way this season started. Not the way it ended with the Padres and the oil on the ear with Musgrove, whatever, and, Scherzer getting tattooed, giving up bombs. Forget about that. But in totality, 101 wins, and then you get February. We're sitting there stuffing our faces, having a few drinks of the Super Bowl, and we see Met ads. And it was awesome. The Mets are trying to take over the city. They bring in a Cy Young guy, $40 million a year. And look at where we are now. Unfathomably messy. Wow.
Cannot sell. Mike is calling from Old Bridge. Mike? Hi, Mike.
Mike, what's going on, buddy?
I don't know what's going on with the phone.
Neither,
Billy
dude.
is calling from Greenwich, Connecticut. Billy? Hi, Billy.
Hey, guys. How are you? Talking about the Mets and whether they should be sell or buy. Sell whatever they can.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I mean, at this point, you got to bring somebody up that's hungry, that wants to make a name for himself. You're paying these guys, and they don't produce. It's just a paycheck.
Well, David Robertson produces. Why are you going to sell him then?
What's he going to do by himself?
Well, what do you mean? He's been the Mets' best reliever.
World Series.
He's been the Mets' best reliever.
That's great. That's fantastic. So you keep him. But what's he going to do as a reliever in one person?
Yeah, but Billy, I think that Billy,
guys that want to make a name for themselves.
But Billy, forget about making a name. I think the better response from you would be, what's David Robertson's impact on the team next year? And the answer is none.
Well, they could bring him back in free agency if they wanted to.
You could.
See, that to me is a clear, if you trade David Robertson, who's arguably been their best performer, right? Guys who do their job or exceed expectations.
Yep.
If you trade him, you are saying that we don't care about the rest of the season. That's not something that I'm willing to do.
Any chance Diaz comes back, or is that just a pipe dream? Where are you on that? What do you think? Is he throwing? Any chance?
I'm not going to bet against him, but I don't think it would be smart to bring him back. At this point, why bother? Even if the Mets got back into it, I'm not rushing Diaz back. Against all odds, they said the injury is supposed to take. He's supposed to be out.
The Patel is no fun.
I'm not betting against him, BT, but I'm not letting that factor into my plans here. You trade a guy like David Robertson, that is a clear okay, we're punting on this year. Now, is that worth it for whatever what do you think they get back for David Robertson? Arguably one of the best relievers on the market,
I'll tell you. Yeah, I would say probably a 1 or 2 low A, okay? Not double, triple A. Prospect that's, I'm just guessing parameters. Maybe an organization's 11th or 12th best prospect who's young. So a high-octane arm, maybe a starter, maybe a bullpen arm, but nowhere near ready for the majors, but intriguing. And I got to tell you, from the Mets' point of view, to me, that's enticing. We're the young Mets. Listen, we watch baseball every night, whether it's SNY, whether it's Yes, whether it's Quick Pitch, whether it's
this year, we're watching 2 teams.
Every night, too much we're watching this year. But every night we watch baseball, I got to be honest with you, even the Yankees have this. I think the Mets are the only team in baseball that doesn't trot out multiple arms throwing 98. Every team's got 5 guys who throws 98 miles per hour, except the Mets.
It sounds great. Trade David Robertson for a top 10 prospect, an arm, which they clearly need younger arms in their farm system. Then you think about, oh, crap, Billy Epler's the guy who's making that decision. He brought in Trevor Gott. You got to be kidding me with this team. It's Brandon Tierney, Sal Licata.